Hey guys, welcome back to Murad on Run, and today we will be talking about cons of studying here in Singapore, and I'll make this video right in front of the entire skyline of Singapore. Not that I'm mocking at this skyline, but then there are some cons as well. See, if a country has pros, it will also have its cons. And the worst thing here, the first biggest con that Singapore has is that no one talks about the cons. Now you'd be thinking, why do people not talk about the cons? I have seen a video about cons. That's just one video. There's entirely one video on YouTube that talks about cons of studying in Singapore, because the government is very critical of cons coming out and people are very scared. Because if I was staying here, I would have not been able to make this video, and that is the biggest con. If you're talking about pros of a country, you should also be able to talk about the cons of a country. If you call yourself a democracy, then you should act like a democracy. Now, I do not want to enter into the political spectrum of it, but simple thing being, it is very difficult for you to talk about cons of studying in Singapore as opposed to any other country. I went to Canada, I made a cons about Canada video, no one said anything to me. But as soon as I told my friends that I'll be making a cons of studying in Singapore video, they told me to post this video as soon as I'm out of Singapore. And I just have a lot of guts to be recording this video here. But yeah, I'll be posting this video after I'm out of Singapore. So that's the first biggest con. The second con is that they have a laser focus on education. Now, is that a bad thing? Honestly, not that bad of a thing. But then, if you're coming to a country and feeling like you'll have fun as well and you'll focus on education as well, this might not be the place. Why? Because their focus is primarily on education. They have a laser focus on education. मेरी पता है फट क्यों रही है, क्योंकि सामने एक बंदा आ गया है एंड वो मुझे देख रहा है एंड आई एम नॉट श्योर वो यहीं का है, तो मुझे लग रहा है मैं दूसरी जगह रिकॉर्ड करूंगा. So I had to change the place where I was recording the video, because where I was actually recording, a person came and sat. And you have to be very critical as to who is listening to what you're saying. And specifically when I'm talking about a cons video, I do not want anyone to be listening to whatever I'm saying. And that is one more thing here. You won't know who is going to report you. So I had to change places. Now, talking about the second con, the second biggest con here is that education system is very focused, laser focused, and very rigid. Now, ideally, if you're studying in any other country, you will have a lot of fun alongside with your education. Let's suppose you end up studying in Canada, UK, you'll end up having a lot of great days as well, festivals, so many other things. Here, education is given first priority, which is a pro as well. I'll not say that that isn't a pro, but then if you also want to enjoy your student life, have fun, party, then Singapore might not be the best place for you, because yes, there is a small party culture here, but then not as good as any other study abroad destination. And I'm talking about any other study abroad destination. All the other study abroad destinations will have a better party culture than Singapore, and which can be a con for many people, which can be a pro for many people. So it is completely your discretion how you want to take it. Third con is very prevalent, that it is not very easy to find a job. Now, it depends on which industry you're in, but many people here in Singapore do not easily find jobs. Now, let's suppose you're from NUS or NTU, then still you have a lot of chances of getting a job. They've already made a video on both NTU and NUS. You can watch those videos. But even NUS graduates have told me that they're still trying to find a job. So at the time of COVID, it is slightly difficult to get a job. And beyond that also, it won't be that easy as easy you'll find it in Canada or USA. It won't be that easy. But when I'm on the same topic, I will talk about the visa and the mess they have with their visa. Now, when I say that, I will come to my fourth con. Let's suppose you have your Canadian visa. If you have your Canadian visa, you're fine. You'll go to Canada, they'll not stop you. Immigration, hardly anyone gets detained, hardly anyone gets sent back. But if you're coming to Singapore, it is very common for people to be sent back from the airport. And that is like a heartbreaking thing. Ideally, if you're going to NTU or NUS, now these big university people do not end up being sent back. But then others are very, very, very often sent back. So that is a very major con. In Canada, it is fairly simple. Either you'll get the visa or you'll not get the visa. If you have the visa, now you're almost in Canada. There is hardly any coming back. But if you're in Singapore, that's a problem. Fifth con is very strict rules. I mean, very, very strict rules. And I'm not 100% sure if you would want to follow them or not, because there are some places where you feel like, okay, I'll just be a bit relaxed with rules. That you cannot do here in Singapore. Now, if you end up breaking some kind of a rule in Canada, still okay. Still you'll get through it. But here in Singapore, it's not possible. It's a direct line. You either cross the line or you don't cross the line. Now in Canada or any other study abroad destination, you can skip over the line 1 or 2 times and no problem would happen to you. And when I say that, let's suppose you're having a chewing gum. That's a fine. You'll be facing a huge fine here. Let's suppose you're not wearing a mask in the MRT. You'll be facing a huge fine here. So fines are crazy here. Like we talked about in Dubai, in Singapore also fines are very crazy. But then Canada or any other study abroad destination is very relaxed in that regard. Yeah, let's suppose I'm on the same point. Now, many people, what they end up doing in Canada is they take a place and then they sublet it. Sublet it means, let's suppose they take a huge room, and in that room they end up asking 2 of their friends to stay with them. Now that's not a big thing, right? 3 people are living in the same room and this is my choice. But in Singapore that's not possible. Even in Canada that's wrong. But then nothing is going to happen with you. Maybe the landlord will ask you to remove, and it won't, nothing specific, nothing major can happen to you. In Singapore you can be asked to go back. Now these small things are very strict. They're very strict here in Singapore. But then in Canada, they're chill. But yeah, if you are a law-abiding citizen, if you're gonna accept all the rules, you do not want to cross any lines, then Singapore is the best place. Trust me, because it is safe, absolutely safe, 10-20 times more safer than any other study abroad country. You won't be facing racism here. A bit of racial profiling, but then not specific racism. If you're a girl, it's a heaven for you. Trust me, it's a heaven for you. But when I come to the point of relaxation, you'll have no kind of relaxation here. If you break the law, you break the law. Now you have to face the penalty. That is not going to happen in any other study abroad destinations. Sixth one is, it is small, very small. So I was here for a month, and I can say that if I was here for 4 days, I would have completely seen everything there is to be offered by Singapore. Yeah, most probably, obviously not all the restaurants, but other than that, all the public places, all the touristy attractions, I would have completed. Now, if you are in, let's suppose, USA, it would take you at least 2 years to completely see. Even it won't even be possible in 2 years. Let's suppose you start going from East Coast to West Coast, it would be taking more than 2 years. Any other country you take, it would take you so many times, such a long time. Canada also, it does not have a lot of places to visit, but then the wilderness is so huge, so you can end up going to many places in Canada. But here, it is so small. Easternmost part to westernmost part would take you 2.5 hour train. That's it. And train is MRT, metro. Now it's like a city, very small city, so you'll not find a lot of things. Now what you can do is you can end up going to Malaysia. So there are places to see in Malaysia. You can go to Indonesia. Bali is a place where many Singaporeans end up going to Bali. Batam Islands, you can go towards the Philippines side, the Thailand side. So not Singapore, but then you can start traveling abroad. So that's a pro. But the con is, in your own country, there are not a lot of places you can end up at. One more con that you can say is food. Ideally, if you're not that big of a fan of seafood, then Singapore might just be a slight problem for you. Not that big of a problem, slight problem only. And if you're a vegetarian, then Singapore is going to be a major problem for you. Canada also, I mean, I hope you guys know that cheeseburger is not for vegetarians. I used to think that cheeseburger is for vegetarians until I ordered a cheeseburger once and saw that there was a meat patty in it. So cheeseburger is definitely not a vegetarian thing. And there are so many other dishes. You won't find many vegetarian options here in Singapore. Probably Dubai might be a good place for you. Probably vegan, for veganism, I have heard that Germany is also becoming a good country. But then for vegetarians, Singapore is going to be slightly difficult. Next one is that of salaries. Now in USA, you can end up earning $1.2 lakh and dollar is at 80. Here, $1.2 lakh is for someone who has a lot, bucket ton, shit loads of experience, 10-20 years of experience. But in USA, 1.2 lakhs can be achieved within like 4 or 5 years also. So salaries are lower. And here, the dollar, Singaporean dollar is for 62. US dollar is for 84. So there's a lot of difference between the dollar rates as well. And dollar 1.2 lakh as opposed to, let's suppose a person who has 4 years of experience in Singapore, he would be making somewhere around $90,000 max $90,000. 90,000 into 60 is somewhere around 54 lakh rupees. And in US, when I talk in terms of US, you can easily be making $1.1 lakh, which is at 84. So that is close to somewhere around 90 lakh rupees. So that's the difference after 4 years. Next point is that of education. Education is definitely expensive, more expensive than European countries, lesser than other countries, but yeah, education is expensive. So keep that in mind. If you're feeling like education is gonna be amazing, it's good, very good, but then it is slightly expensive when you're comparing it with European countries. Next point is that of dialect. Now, if I have to give it ranking, Canadian dialect is the easiest. Canadian and US dialect is the easiest. Maybe US is the easiest and then Canadian, but then they're very similar. Unless they're coming from a very regional area, then they have a thick accent. Then I would say you have Singaporean accent and then you have UK accent. But then Singaporean accent is not that easy to understand. Like when you're talking to people, you would first of all have to be very slow in what you're saying because they won't understand you. Majority of the times you would understand what they're saying, but they won't understand what you're saying. So you'll have to be slow. But yeah, dialect is one more problem, and it is slightly better than UK British accent, but way worse than US and Canadian accent. And the final con would be people are not that chill. Now, when I say that, what I mean to say is there are some people you'd meet who are the best people you'll ever meet, like the most caring, the most helpful people out there in the entire world that you'll meet. But majority of the people are very into themselves. They'll focus on themselves. They'll not have a conversation with you. They'll not socialize. They'll be in their own bubble. So because these are mostly 60% Chinese population, now you going up to them, they're not very comfortable in socializing with people from outside their community. That is one final con that I'll end it at. Yes, definitely some people are who end up leaving their social group also. I'm a person who would want to have friends from all the different segments and all the different communities. I have absolutely no problem in making friends. But then that you will not see here. In Canada, I ended up making friends with everyone. German people, French people, Canadians, everyone, Punjabis, everyone. Here, it was difficult for me because they do not just want to come out of their social circle. And that's a major problem. They're not that chill. If I have to say, they're not that chill. And if I say that, they also have a lot of pros, and that video is here. I'm not only cynical about the cons, but yeah, pros are something that you need to discuss about, and that video is here.